Hi, my name is Troy. I'm a legal educator in the US and an LSAT tutor, and I wanted to share some thoughts today on the Will Smith incident. So, for me, seeing so many people excuse Will Smith's violence has been really disturbing. Partly that's because of my own recent experiences with violence and people excusing it. So, I wanted to share my experience to give people hopefully some insight about why violence shouldn't be excused, even female violence, or in this case, unnecessary male violence allegedly on behalf of a female. Now, trust me, I understand the desire to excuse such violence. Personally, I myself have excused such violence in the recent past. For example, when the mother of my child attacked me in late 2019. And I'm going to show you that attack right now on video.
She's hurting me. She's grabbing my neck. I can't get her off of me. She's now lying, but now that I started videotaping, she'll get off.
So right there you saw the very beginning of the video. I started filming that video about 10 seconds after she had jumped onto my back and she was choking me, holding my neck. She was also covering my mouth so people in the same house couldn't hear me telling her to get off of me. And I started filming because I didn't want to hurt her to get her off of me, but I needed her off of me. And I thought that filming would do the trick, and it did. She got off, as you saw. But what I didn't expect is that she would repeatedly continue to attack me while I continued to film, and I'll show you that now.
I didn't consent to you grabbing my neck and not letting me go and trying to shut my mouth with your hand.
Playing circus.
Yeah, we were playing circus. That's right. Oh yeah, we're still playing circus, right? I'm not pushing you. You're holding me in the room. I'm opening the door. I'm opening the door. She won't let us out of the room. We'll go out the window. Go ahead, call the police. I'll show them the video. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's too cold outside. She's
gonna be fine.
No jacket.
She's gonna be fine.
No reason for you to take her with you.
She's gonna be fine. Don't worry.
No reason for you
Don't
to
touch my
take her.
backpack. Don't touch my stuff. Don't touch me.
Leave
Get away
her.
from me.
That's not okay to her.
Get away from me. She just hit me. She's grabbing my nuts. Get off of me. That's what you've been doing for years in our relationship. Playing like a victim.
Not true.
Oh, it's not true. The video show is true. You've been hurting her and hurting me.
That is not true. I've been playing with her and minding my
What? She's in my arms. She's fine, except for that her mom's physically assaulting her dad in front of her. Okay, so here's what happened just now. I tried to have a reasonable conversation. I said, she said something like, I want to protect her. I said, you can't protect her. You're attacking me physically. That's what's making Tyler distressed. You're making Tyler distressed. She said, I didn't try to attack you. I said, oh, the video's going back on if you say that. And she said it again, the video's going back on. She didn't try to attack me. She was just grabbing me, putting her hand like this while I try to speak, hitting me with a shoe, grabbing my testicles, trying to squeeze them, kicking me, jumping on my back, trying to prevent me from leaving, barring the door.
So in these videos, you see that my daughter is emotionally stable at many points, but then every time her mother attacks us or prevents us from leaving, my daughter gets frightened again and starts screaming. And you can even hear my daughter yelling at one point, "Mommy, what are you doing, Mommy?" And I had no idea that her mother would just keep attacking us. I figured that each time would be the last time. I still have no idea why she was attacking us that day. But anyway, let me tell you why I excused that violence at the time. It was because I realized that this woman had herself, according to what she had told me, been, as a child, physically abused, abandoned by her mother, ridiculed relentlessly for her dark skin color and her poverty and other things. And so there was a lot behind that violence, and I knew that. And over the course of the relationship, I learned more and more that there was so much behind her erratic behavior. But what I also learned through almost 5 years of interactions with her, including about 1.5 years of a relationship with her after that attack, is that it is very difficult to help people who are victims of trauma and abuse and who are projecting that abuse onto those they love. by actively trying to shield them from the consequences of their actions. What that leads to, in my experience, is just more abuse. And that's exactly what happened in my case. So in May of last year, 2021, this woman, the mother of my child, tried to commit violence against me again, this time through attempting to use the police against me. And what happened was basically around that time, she was insisting that we have more children. And here's a text she sent a few months prior to that. So when she would tell me that we needed to have more kids, and one time she even told me that she was going to artificially inseminate herself and take our child away if I didn't impregnate her, I would respond by saying to her, look, I would love to have more children, but I need you to be stable for 6 months before I'm going to feel comfortable having more children with you. And I guess she knew when I said that I was no longer going to let her control our relationship with violence and threats of taking my child away. So beginning actually in April of 2021, she started trying to provoke me into committing an act of violence against her. And so after about a month of her just starting these bizarre conversations and then trying to escalate everything constantly, finally I was like, if you want to talk to me, it's got to be on film, because I was hoping to deter her from violence again and create a record of what was actually happening. Because at this point, I knew that she had delusions, or she was a compulsive liar, or both, probably both. So anyway, by May 2nd, she realized that she wasn't going to be able to provoke me. And so she just called the police on me for no reason whatsoever. And she abducted our daughter right after they arrived. And she took our daughter to a domestic violence shelter, I presume to try to justify her essentially kidnapping. And here's a little clip from her calling the police. What are you calling the police for? You can literally just leave right now. I just told you I could pack. Hey guys.
What's up, man?
You want to come in or what?
Yeah.
Sure.
Where's your wife?
She's in the bathroom.
Do you have any weapons? Do you lift your...
Dude, I don't have any weapons.
I just gotta make sure.
I know.
Can you just wait over here with my partner?
Sure.
What's gonna be the plan?
That's what I said to the police officer. I said, Miss, you could send the police over here, but what's going to happen? I already offered to leave.
Yeah.
She already was going on a walk. She said, can you guys separate? I said, she was already going on a walk. I didn't stop her going on a walk. And I was packing.
By the way, I should mention that you don't have to take my word for it that I never abused her. And you don't even have to rely on these videos I'm showing you. That's because a month after she left and had a whole month of trying to use depriving me of my kid to rope me back into the relationship, she filed a domestic violence restraining order against me when I was not going to get back into the relationship with her. And that order, if granted, would have prevented me from seeing my daughter at all. And she lost that case. And she asked the judge to reconsider his decision, and she lost that too. And this was not a judge who liked me, by the way. In fact, my ex presented her case first, and the judge listened to hours and hours of her lying. And then he stopped everything. He took both our lawyers behind the courtroom into his chambers, and he told them that he'd seen enough, he'd heard enough, and he was ready to issue a restraining order against me before I had even gotten the chance to say a word. I had not presented any defense whatsoever. And my lawyer told me, hey, you're getting railroaded here, but you might want to settle. And I basically said, we're not going to do that. I'm confident that the evidence will be able to sway even a mildly reasonable person. And so I went forward with it, and I won. And I thought I was going to win because, she had no evidence because I had never abused her, and there was tons of evidence that showed that her whole story was a lie. And part of that evidence, for example, was that just a few days, 3 days before our separation, she said that she would be totally fine with our daughter splitting time evenly between us. Yet, in the case, she said I was some monster who couldn't be trusted with our daughter and blah, blah, blah. And here's the video of were saying that she's totally fine with splitting time evenly 3 days before our separation.
I'm okay with 50-50 here in the same state if we're nearby each other.
Okay, so I'm in Venice, or you're in Westwood. She stays over with me on Sunday night, and then Monday she goes with you, and she stays over with you on Monday, and Tuesday she stays with me, and
Yeah.
Tuesday night?
That's
You want to do that?
50-50, yes.
You want to do that?
That sounds like 50-50.
Yeah, the evidence speaks for itself. And there was so much more evidence, and it was very clear that she was just perjuring herself over and over on the stand. I don't have time to get into all that evidence now. Instead, I want to focus on how the excuse of her violence led to further abuse. So I already told you about the abusive litigation I had to endure. I've spent over $70,000 in the last year fighting this fraudulent case. Meanwhile, she's not even paying rent because she's living with these enabling white millionaires who I guess are trying to like steal my daughter, have a granddaughter of their own. I don't know. And then on top of all the money I spent, there's been all the trauma I've had to endure combing through this evidence over and over. 5 years of evidence, 5 years of my mistreatment and abuse at her hands. And I've had major trouble sleeping. I've lost so many hours of work. And then on top of all that, there's the effects on my daughter. So I haven't seen my daughter in almost a year. And I have videos of me FaceTiming with my daughter after her mother finally allowed us to FaceTime. And in these videos, my daughter is weeping and screaming and begging her mother to be allowed to see me. It's really sad. And even one time my daughter started trying to like bargain with her kidnapper. She started offering kisses to her mother if her mother would only let her see me. It was kind of sickening to watch, actually. And this trauma to my daughter could have and should have all been prevented by the California court system. See, there's this law in California that says that a judge cannot overlook physical domestic violence and give custody of a child to a physically abusive parent. I mean, they can if they make really detailed findings about how that would be appropriate in a specific case. But basically, the state legislature of California passed this law telling judges, hey, stop ignoring domestic violence. This is not good for kids. The people who do domestic violence shouldn't be with these kids. So anyway, I showed the video of this attack to our judge, and my ex didn't even attempt to explain what was happening in that video when, for example, she pulled me away from the window, knocking me and my daughter into a dresser, and then she proceeds to hit me as I retreat into the bathroom.
You're gonna be fine. Don't worry.
No reason for you
Don't
to
touch my
take
backpack. Don't touch my stuff. Don't touch me.
Leave
Get away
her.
from me.
That's not okay to her.
Get away from me.
And nor did she even attempt to explain what she was doing when she was ducking down and into me, trying to squeeze my testicles once I was in the bathroom.
She's grabbing my nuts.
But despite this clear video, and despite the obviously false testimony she was giving about this video, which was full of holes and which the judge even determined was false, and despite this clear California law that if you're going to give custody to an abuser, you have to have these specific findings, the judge gave custody to her mother without doing any of the findings. And then he put these absolutely ridiculous restrictions on my visitation rights. And then many months later, a new judge had to review those restrictions, and he didn't even let me speak at the hearing about my daughter's future. And that was, in my opinion, a gross violation of my state and federal constitutional rights, because there's this little constitutional right everyone has called due process, and it basically guarantees everyone at least the right to be heard in an official proceeding about you when those proceedings could have a direct and significant impact on your life. And that's not even to mention the rights of a parent, the rights of a child to see one another without arbitrary interference from the government. But yeah, so judges in my case just chose to ignore the law so that they could ignore female violence. And that has been damaging myself and my daughter ever since. And then on top of that, my ex has now been allowed to sink even deeper into this totally abusive, deceitful, and violent personality, which can't be good for her either. And people in authority could have stepped up to the plate and done something, and instead they chose to participate in child and spousal abuse. And the fact that our court system is this corrupted just shows the importance of non-governmental actors standing up to violence. So individuals, businesses, professions, associations, nonprofits, we all have to stand up to acts of violence, condemn them, try to eliminate them from our society. And we don't necessarily need criminal consequences for every act of violence, but there have to be consequences. And perpetrators of violence have to themselves step up to the plate if there are going to be viable non-criminal ways of responding to violence. Perpetrators will have to take serious substantive actions to make amends for their violence in some tangible way. So Will Smith now is one of those people. He should be coming forward and taking meaningful action to reduce violence, not just apologizing for it. Anyway, I hope this story about my own abuse and the abuse of my daughter, which is ongoing, helps you understand the importance of not overlooking female violence and unnecessary male violence justified by some misguided ideas about how to protect women. And I hope that some social, political, and judicial changes to our society can result from this incident, from the video I'm sharing, from all the things that are happening in the world where people are standing up to violence and aggression. Thanks for listening.